Welcome back to the revision classes provided by Professor Academy, Chennai. And in today's class, we are going to look at MLA Handbook 9th edition. Today's focus, in-text citations. What are in-text citations? In-text citations in the sense, when we write our essays, research papers or thesis or dissertation, in the body of the text itself, we refer to the text or the words we borrowed from other sources, secondary sources. And this is what we do, even from primary sources. We just quote from primary or secondary sources, and we acknowledge that. And how do you do that? Number one, in the prose itself, we say according to. So we mention the name of the author from whose work we borrowed the words or ideas. So see this, according to Ezra Pound, comma, literature is news that stays news. So this is his idea. The Imagist poet Ezra Pound's idea that literature is news that stays news, not my idea. So how do I acknowledge that? First, I mentioned his name. Second, I put his words in double quotations. Look at news, news that stays news within double quotations. After that, I open parenthetical documentation in the sense parenthesis, square round brackets, then within that I say page number 29, then close parenthesis, full stop. So this is one way of doing. Next way, in parenthesis, in the sense without mentioning the name of the author, you straight away write the sentence, because sometimes we can't afford to mention the name of the author because it's lengthy. You go straight to the topic. Literature is news that stays news. Yet these words are borrowed from Ezra Pound. So put it in double quotes, news that stays news. Then in parenthesis, you say Pound. Just mention the second name, Pound, space 29, then close brackets, then full stop. So either you do that way, in prose, you mention the name, or in parenthesis, you mention the name and page number. This is how we do that. And in the body, you have to use double quotations. If you have exactly, you are exactly using the words used by the author. And the works cited list, you have to write the bibliography, right? So this is the entry, Pound, comma, Ezra, full stop. ABC of reading. So that's the book from which I borrowed these words. ABC of reading in italics, full stop. Faber and Faber, comma, that's a publisher, 1991, full stop. We have already done a video on how to create a works cited list. So this is a follow-up lecture. Here, our focus is more on in-text citations, how we are going to cite the words we borrowed from others. Okay, let's go. Okay, if it is two or more authors or co-authors, what we do? So if you are mentioning for the first time the name of the authors, mention it in full. Larry Collins and Dominic Lapierre, mentioned in full. So Larry Collins and Dominic Lapierre claim that golf was introduced in India in 1829, 3 decades before it reached New York. So this is a piece of information I read in their book. And here I have summarized it or paraphrased it. I'm not using the same words used by them, yet I have to acknowledge them because this is not my idea. This is their idea. Even if we paraphrase or summarize, we have to mention the source. So I have mentioned the name of the authors, Larry Collins and Dominic Lapierre. Then at the end of the phrase or paraphrase, use brackets, page number 19, close bracket, full stop. Or you don't want to mention the names in full, you just go to the topic. Golf was introduced in India in 1829, comma, 3 decades before it reached New York. Of course, this is not your idea. So what do you do? In the parenthesis, you mention the source. So what do you do? Bracket, open bracket. You just mention, if we have two authors, just mention their second names, Collins and Lapierre, space 19, then close bracket, full stop. You just mention the second names, not full Larry Collins or Dominic Lapierre, Collins and Lapierre. That's enough. Then if a reader goes to the works cited list. There it is. Collins, comma, Larry, comma. So you have to invert the first author's name and Dominic Lapierre, full stop. This is the name of the work, Freedom at Midnight, which is in italics, full stop, Avon Books, comma, 1975. We know how to do this int because we have already analyzed, we have already looked at works cited list. Okay, next. What if in your work, in your research, you use 2 or more works by the same author, which we do often, because we often take a single author and we do our research on a single author. These days it's old-fashioned, yet there are scholars which who focus on single authors, and these are scholars, they take 2 or more works by that single author, 1 chapter for each novel, right? That method is almost old-fashioned, but yet it is there. In that case, you have to tell your reader from which work of the same author I'm talking now, which work, from which work I'm quoting now. You have to be very clear. So you can do it in 3 ways. Number 1, when you write, you mention the book very clearly. So what I'm talking about here, so I'm talking about J.M. Coetzee, South African novelist, now living in Australia. So I'm using 2 of his works. One, Foe, F-O-E, which is a retelling of Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. Another work, Waiting for the Barbarians. I have to tell my readers that I'm quoting from Foe, not from Waiting for Barbarians. If I just mention Coetzee, my readers might get confused that they don't know whether I'm quoting from Waiting for Barbarians or Foe. So I have to be very clear. So this is how I do. So I say info, very clear, right? I say directly say info. That's all. No confusion. Info Coetzee writes. So if it's a short phrase, what do you do? Go for comma. Then double quotes. For the business of the world to prosper, providence must sometimes wake and sometimes sleep as lower creatures do. Then close quotation. Then parenthesis, round brackets, 23, close, full stop. So this is very clear to the readers. So this quotation is from Foe. It's by Coetzee, and from Foe, page number 23. That's all. Or you can write like this. So instead of mentioning the work, you can say Coetzee writes, comma. You mention that words in double quotation. For the business of the world, goes on and on. Then in the parenthesis, you can say which book, Foe, F-O-E, space 23. This is another way of doing. So instead of writing in the prose itself, in your writing itself, in the parenthesis, you can mention the name of the work, Foe. Or in your writing, you do not have space to talk about the author or the book, then you can mention both in the parenthesis. This is another way. For instance, look at that. The character Crusoe says, because that's a character in the novel. The character Crusoe says, comma, for the business of, it goes on and on, then close quotations. In the bracket, you say, within brackets, you say Coetzee. So that's the name of the author. Then you say comma, then name of the book, Foe in italics, space 23, then close brackets, full stop. So these are the 3 ways of doing this, right? So then if your reader goes to the works cited list, so you have Coetzee, comma, JM, full stop, Foe. And this is the original publication year, 1986, full stop, Penguin Books publisher, comma, 2010, full stop. Then you can look at here, if you are going for 2 or more works by the same author in the works cited list, for the second entry, you can use just 3 hyphens, hyphen, 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 full stop. These 3 hyphens say that this is also written by J.M. Coetzee or the author mentioned above. That's all. That's a function of this 3 hyphen and full stop. Then I say Waiting for the Barbarians. That's the name of the second novel I'm using in my work. So Waiting for the Barbarians in italics, then full stop, 1980, original publication, Penguin Books, comma, then the year, 1999, full stop. Okay. So this is how you go for it. Okay, next one. if a work is lengthy, I mean, if the title of that work is longer than a noun phrase. What is a noun phrase? A noun phrase consists of two words, a noun before you have an adjective or article. For instance, the barbarians is a noun phrase. The article, then barbarians, noun phrase, right? So if a title is longer than that, what do? You can shorten the title. How do we do that? So you have to mention the keyword. For instance, here, waiting for the barbarians is lengthy, right? The title is lengthy, is longer than a noun phrase. So what is the keyword here? Waiting. So I can just use waiting, right? Or if the title is something like the barbarians are coming, in that case, I can use just the barbarians. I will leave out are coming, right? You need not refer to that. Okay. So look at the sentence I have written here. The magistrate is the name of the character in this novel, Waiting for the Barbarians. So I say the magistrate. So I have used N dash. Could see is spiritually crushed character. So it's like an opposition. So I qualify magistrate. Then you have another N dash. Then I continue. The magistrate signs off with the note of being lost. This is the last line of the novel. So I go for, there are a lot of lines. So I go for colon, then double quotation. This is not the scene I dreamed of, full stop. Like much else, nowadays, I leave it to feeling stupid, like a man who lost his way long ago, but presses on along a road that may lead nowhere. Then close quotations. Then I use parenthetical documentation, so parenthesis, round brackets. I just mentioned the short name, waiting, space, 207, full stop. Okay. I need not say waiting for the barbarians. That's long. Just mention the first one. So if your reader goes to works cited list, easy to find. Number one, they have to look for could see, which I have mentioned in the text itself. So could see, first find could see. So that's the entry, could see. Then you say waiting, and there is a waiting for the barbarians. So that's a full title. Okay. So this is how you can shorten the title if it is lengthy. Next one. There are complex parenthetical citations. In the sense, in a single paragraph, if you mention two or more authors on use multiple sources, then you can use parentheses like this. So open parenthesis, I mean round bracket. First, maybe in the single paragraph, the first quotation is by some author, and the second is by someone else. So you first mention the second name of the first author. So parenthesis, pound, space 29. Then you say colon, sorry, semicolon, then could see, that's the second author, space 23, then bracket. So your readers can understand that the first quotation is by pound, the second is by could see in the same paragraph. Okay, if you want to mention references, I mean, if you want to make references to other parts of the same work, you want to be very clear, then you can do this. So bracket, pound, space 29. So this is the page number. Then you go for semicolon. But in that work, ABC of reading, there are sections, section 1, section 2. There are a lot of chapters. You want to be very specific, which section, which chapter. So you can do that. So if it's section SEC, S in small, SEC, full stop, number. So section 1, comma. In section 1, I go for chapter 2, chapter CH, C in small, full stop, 2, then bracket, close bracket. So this is a beautiful way of saying, which shows that you are methodical in your research. Then in a single, in a single paragraph, you quote from different page numbers of the same work. I mean, different locations. From different locations, you are using words, but single source. You can do this method. So you can go for this method. So bracket, could see, space 23, comma 88, comma, or page number. Maybe it runs from, the idea runs from one page to the other. For instance, 145 to 147. Then So, and you can also notice 145. I'm not using again 147 here. I removed 1 here. So this is if you go for three digits, 145, and again you want to say 147, you can remove that 1. Okay, so that's a method we can follow. So when you read this, could see 23, 88, or 145 to 147, then you know in the paragraph above, the first words, I mean the words quoted is from page number 23, then the idea or the words from 88, then from 45 to 47. Okay, you can do that. Next one. Okay, if you are quoting from a prose text, right, a prosaic text, what do you do from prose? And it's a short one. Remember, you need not go for any special emphasis. And this is the rule. No more than 4 lines. If your quotation is not more than 4 lines, you just incorporate it within your writing itself. Look at this. Of Maggie and Tom Tulliver in The Mill on the Floss, comma, George Eliot writes. So George Eliot writes about the major characters, Maggie and Tom Tulliver in The Mill on the Floss. So this is what George Eliot writes, comma, in their death, they were not divided. So these are the exact words. This is the last line of the novel. So we put it in double quotations, but which is very short. So you incorporate it into the text itself. Okay. Then we have to mention the page number in parentheses, 492 full stop. But this rule applies to, not more than 4 lines. This is not even a single line, right? But what if the quotation runs more than 4 lines? If it runs, it's called long quotation or block quotation. Block, it's a big block, right? For long quotation, especially this is the rule, more than 4 lines. It should be more than 4 lines. The quotation should be more than 4 lines. In that case, what do? You go for indentation. And one more rule, do not indent the first line. The first line you should not indent. The same way. Okay. So see, stressing the importance of factual details, comma, Thomas Gradgrind, comma, a man of realities. So it's it's qualifying this one. Then says, you go for colon. Then you mention or you put the entire block quotation. Facts alone are wanted in life. Plant nothing else and root out everything else. You can only from the minds of reasoning animals upon facts. It goes on and on. More than 4 lines. Full stop. Then you open brackets. Hot Times. So it's the name of the work by Charles Dickens. Hot Times. It's a noun phrase, so there is no need for shortening it. So Hot Times space 1. So from page number 1 itself. Then close bracket. And just pay attention here. The earlier one, which is very short. The quotation is very short. So we used a double quotation. We incorporate this quotation into the text itself, right? Then after the quotation, we mentioned the page number, then full stop. But here it's different. We don't use double quotations. Look at here. Then full stop. After the full stop, we go for parenthesis. So this is the difference between that one and this one. And one more, you have to use half an inch from the margin. So this is the margin, you use half an inch, then you go for the indentation. Okay. And do not indent the first line of this paragraph. But in case you go for 2 or 3 paragraphs, in that case, you can do that. Okay, so that's a different rule. But here, do not indent. Okay. What if the quotation is from poetry? Simple rule. If it's 2 or 3 lines, okay, incorporate it. I mean, 2 or 3 lines, you can incorporate into the text itself. But if it is 2 or 3 lines, you want to say this is one line, this is another line, you have to use a forward slash, single space on both sides. And if you want to mention stanza break, then you have to use 2 forward slashes. Look at the example here. Asking the west wind to lift him as a wave, a leaf, a cloud, the persona of Shelley's ode mourns. Then you use comma. So this is the quote from the text itself, from the poem itself, West Wind. So I'm using 3 lines. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. So this is the next line of the same stanza. Sorry, different stanza. So this is I follow upon the thorns of life, I bleed. This is the last line of the previous stanza. So there's a stanza break, then the next line or the first line of the next stanza, then the following line. So this is the stanza break. So I go for forward slashes, 2 forward slashes, space before it, after it. Then I say a heavy weight of hours has chained and bowed. Then I use space, forward slash, space, which says this is the first line of the stanza. This is the second line. Okay. So this is for line break. This is for stanza break. And this is the last line. 1, 2 like thee, tameless and swift and proud. Then double quotation, then space, and you know the line numbers, then you can mention the line numbers. So bracket, lines 54, then n dash 56, then close brackets, full stop. Okay. So this is for short quotation, 2 or 3 lines. Remember, this is for poetry, 2 or 3 lines. For prose, around 4 lines. If you go above, more than 4 lines, we go for indentation. So here, for poetry, more than 3 lines. For prose, more than 4 lines. So here, poetry, more than 3 lines, you go for block quotation, half an inch from the margin, right? So look at the example here. In out of the cradle endlessly rocking, Whitman talks about his epiphanic moment. So colon. So I go for more than 3 lines. So I have used 4 lines. So that too, answering the sea, delaying not, hurrying not, whispered me through the night and very plainly before daybreak. Then 4th line, lisped to me the low and the delicious word death. Then the lines goes on and on. So I use ellipsis with spaces in between. Then bracket, bracket, we have canto, C in small, space 10, because there are a lot of cantos in this work. Instead of mentioning line numbers, I mentioned the canto 10, then close bracket. So why we go for this? See, I haven't used double quotation because this is a block quotation. When you go for long quotation, you should not use double quotation, right? Then full stop comes here, then you go for the brackets. And you can also notice this space here. See, from the margin, you go for half an inch for the block quotation. But within block quotation, if you notice, there is half an inch for this line. Why? Remember this, if a line in poetry or from a poem line, it runs on to the next line. It's supposed to be one line, but it's a very long one. It runs on to the next line. You have to tell your readers that this is not a new line. This line belongs to the previous line. Okay, this half day or day break. Okay, so this is what you do. So what you do? Half an inch from here or 1 inch from the margin. So that readers can understand this is not a new line. So there are totally 4 lines only. Okay, next one. What if you go for drama? So we have looked at lines from prose and poetry. This time, drama, short quotation. If the quotation is very brief or partial, integrate it or incorporate it into your prose itself. Look at this. When King Claudius asked Hamlet, so this is my word, comma, I'm quoting King Claudius' word. What do you call the play? So that is his word. So put it in double quotes, then comma. Hamlet replies. So this is his reply, comma, the mousetrap, short, partial or very brief quotation, short quotation. So you incorporate within into your text itself. Then for drama, this is what you have to do. I mean, bracket, you have to mention the act and scene and lines if it's possible. So 3, full stop, 2. So it says act 3, scene 2, full stop. Then line numbers 215, then n dash 16. See, you need not mention 216, just 16. It's understood that it is 216. then close bracket, full stop. Okay, so this is for drama. Next one. If it is a block quotation from a drama, what do you do? As usual, half an inch from the margin. That's number one rule. Number two, from drama, you go for a conversation, right? An exchange between speakers. So I have used three speakers here: Claudius, Hamlet, and Gertrude from Shakespeare's Hamlet. So what do you do? Number one, you have to use capitals for characters' name. Claudius, Claudaus. That's number one. Characters' names in caps. Hamlet, Gertrude, everything in caps. Then after the character's name, you have to use a full stop. Full stop, full stop. Then without double quotation, you just use the words uttered by the characters. So this is the rule. And half an inch from the margin. So Hamlet's predilection for pun is evident from the start of the play, colon, then half an inch from the margin, Claudius in caps, full stop, then the line. How is it that the clouds still hang on you? Then you go for the next character, Hamlet in caps, full stop, then his line. Not so, my lord, I am too much in the sun, full stop. Next, Gertrude, then full stop. Then, good Hamlet, cast thy nightly color off, comma, and another line by Gertrude. So you have to mention, I mean, this is not another line by another character. This is the same line uttered by Gertrude. This is the second line, right? So what you have to do, half an inch from the starting of this block quotation, or 1 inch from the margin. So which says this is hanging intent, which we also did for poetry, right? This half an inch says this line is also uttered by Gertrude. That's all. So that's the purpose of using this half an inch. So if another line, again you use half an inch. Then you go for the next character, then full stop, then stop. Okay, after full stop, you go for block quotation. After full stop, you have to go for parenthesis. You say 1.2. So 1, act 1, 2, scene 2, full stop, 66 and 69. So that's the page number. Then close bracket. And this is a very important scene where Claudius asks, why is wearing black clothes? Because Hamlet is mourning for his father's death. But now Claudius has married Gertrude. They are married now. So it's a special occasion. They ask him to cast away that cloth, black cloth, but he says no. It's a very important scene, right? And through his clothes, he is actually showing his anger. And he says, I'm mourning for my dead father, and I'm also opposing your marriage. Okay, next one. What if the quotation we choose itself has some quotation, right? So look at the example here. In everything you know about English is wrong. This is the name of the book, comma. The author says, Bill Brohak says that the phrase Sahara Desert is redundant because. So after because, I'm quoting the exact line from the text. So this double quotation says the line is from the text itself. Sahara means desert in Arabic, then close quotation, then bracket 32 from page number 32, full stop. But you can also notice desert in single quote, single quotations, quotation marks. So actually, the author Bill Brohak used double quotations for desert. But if I also use double quotations here, there will be confusion because already there are double quotations here, double quotations here. Then again I go for double quotations, then there will be confusion. So here I have the authority as a researcher to convert the double quotation used by the author into single quotation. Okay, so this quotation, so by converting, I simply say this quotation, these quotes, these quotation marks are used by the author, not me. Okay, so this is the rule. When double quotation marks appear in the source itself, convert them to single quotation marks. Okay, so you have the authority to do that. Next one. Capitalization or lower cases, upper cases within quotations. See, in some places we have to use capital letters. In some places we have to use for lower cases. Some places we go for uppercase. But in the original, it is not so. In the original, it is not capital, but we go for caps. So we have to mention we have to mention that clearly. Look at the example here. In Who Were the Shudras? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says, comma. Then I open double quotations, and these are the words from the work. Even the fool has a duty to perform, namely to do his bit if the angel has gone to sleep or is unwilling to proclaim the truth. Then close quotation, space, then page number in brackets, full stop. But after, look at this here. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says, comma. So grammatically, if you start the quotation, the words, the first letter should be in caps. But in the original, it's small, right? It's the middle of the word, middle of the sentence. So I want that one. I want to start from even. But in the original, it's just E, small e. But here, grammatically, I have to go for capital E. So what I do, I use square brackets. I say square bracket, I use capital E, then square bracket, EVEN. So it means in the original, it's actually lowercase. For this purpose, for here, grammatical purpose, I use capital E. In the original, it's small e. Sorry, it's small e. So you have to tell your readers that it is your capital, not the original one. Similar way, in some places, in the original, it's actually capital, but you have to go for small. For example, Foucault, comma, in The History of Sexuality, comma. So Foucault describes discourse as our knowledge and notes that when you use that, the next letter should be small, right? But in the original, the word is actually caps, or the letter is actually caps. So here I use square bracket. Then I convert it into small b. Between techniques of knowledge and strategies of power, there is no exteriority. Then close quotation, I go for page number 98 in parenthesis, full stop. So here, this square bracket says that in the original, letter B is actually the starting point in caps. So here, for grammatical purpose, I have changed. The researcher has converted into small b. Okay. So use square brackets to indicate when you have changed the case of your source, uppercase or lowercase. Next one, clarification. We can also use square brackets to provide contextual information wherever necessary, right? For instance, look at this example. To support his argument, the critic Louis MacLeod cites the following scene from Foe by Coetzee, colon. So these are the words. But look at here, open your mouth, comma, he told him. The reader may not know he refers to whom or him refers to whom. I mean the characters. There are a lot of characters. So as a researcher, I have to say this he refers to the character Crusoe, and this him refers to Friday. Okay, so this is clarification. So this is, but these words are not available in the text itself and the quote itself. So this is mine. So I have to use square bracket Crusoe, square bracket Friday. Similar way, look at the next one. I looked. So I have to say I refers to Susan. Okay, so these are my words. So as a researcher, if you think that reader may get confused because of this pronouns or some other place, you can mention the context, or you can provide contextual information. Okay, next one. What if there is an error in the source itself and you want to tell the reader, see, this is not my mistake, this error is in the text itself. If you want to do that, again, you go for square brackets. So I'm using examples from Linda Hudson. Linda Hudson, as a researcher, uses this. Look at this. This is from Linda Hudson's A Poetic of Postmodernism, colon. So Michael Coetzee recent work 4 opens with an enunciative signal. It goes on and on. And look, come to this line, these words, Robinson Crusoe, which is in double quotes, and Linda Hudson has used square bracket and SIC. Sic in Latin means so, thus. So Linda Hudson says, see, these words, I mean Robinson Crusoe, the spelling is not my mistake. This is how the author Coetzee uses it. Because Crusoe, C-R-U-S-O-E, so that's the spelling. So that's the spelling used by Daniel Defoe in his work. But Coetzee in his work 4 uses this spelling, Robinson Crusoe, without E. So Linda Hudson clarifies that, see, this is not my mistake, or this is how Coetzee uses. I'm very much aware. Linda Hudson says, I'm very much aware there should be an E, right? I'm very much aware, but this is how Coetzee uses. So she uses square bracket, SIC. So she states, okay, this is by Coetzee himself. So Coetzee uses these words. That's all. I have nothing to do with this. Okay. So you can use this. So add SIC to preserve the accuracy of the quotation and indicate that the error appears in the source. Okay, next one. What if you want to add emphasis? See, in the original quotation, there is no emphasis, but you want to emphasize certain phrase. You can do that. Look at here. For Pierce, comma, a sign becomes a sign when it stands to somebody for something. In the original quotation, there is no emphasis, but you want to tell the reader to somebody. That's important because a sign becomes a sign when it is interpreted by someone. So you want to stress, you want to add emphasis. How do you do that? You italicize that phrase or word, to somebody. And after the quotation mark, you have to, in the parenthesis, you have to say emphasis added. So this emphasis is not in the original, it is added by me, the researcher, full stop. And you can also do that, do this in a different way. If you want to go for the entire quotation, a sign is something which stands to somebody for something in some respect or capacity. And close bracket, I mean open bracket, page number 99. After the page number, you have to use quotation, I mean semicolon, then my emphasis. You can use my emphasis or emphasis added. And if you have page number, you use semicolon, then you use my emphasis, then close bracket, full stop. Right? 2 methods. Next, you go for translation. Sometimes you use a foreign phrase. Foreign phrase in the sense maybe your mother tongue, a phrase from your mother tongue or a phrase from some other source, right? You can use your own translation or you can use translation of that phrase. How do you do that? Number 1, this is first rule. Look at the sentence. The first French slang phrase that I learned was arrête de te la péter. So it's a French phrase. So I put it in italics. Immediately I provide the translation because I can't force my reader to refer this phrase in the internet. I have to provide the translation here, or else my reader is distracted. My reader has to check out this phrase. So we should not trouble the reader. So what we do, we give the translation of the phrase. Number 1, what you can do, you can open bracket, then double quotes and name of, I mean, translation. Stop showing off. So this is the meaning of that phrase. Then after the translation, double quotation, then close bracket, full stop. This is one method. And another method, without this brackets, you simply space, use double quotation marks, stop showing off, full stop, because it comes towards the end. So full stop, then close bracket, I mean close quotation, single. So either go for brackets, double quotation, or without brackets, single quotation. So these are the rules. Okay, next one. What if it's not just a single line, entire maybe 2 or 4 lines, or 2 or 3 lines or 4 lines, right? In that case, you can also mention the original. So first you do, so this is from a short story. J.P. Chanakya begins his story This is the name of the short story. The voice that echoes is indeed yours, with an epigraph. So I want to mention the epigraph. So this is how I do, and which is actually in Tamil. The epigraph is in Tamil because it's a Tamil short story. So I have to mention the epigraph, and this is my translation. First, I write the translation. Double quotation. Humans do not comprehend the laws of the cosmos. They need to understand themselves before descending into the abyss, from where there is no return even to the call of God. Double quotation. Right. So these double quotes or double quotation marks say this is a translation. After that, maybe if it is, I want to mention the original itself. So what do you do? For original, just use single quotation mark. Single quotation mark, then you mention the entire quote in the language you translated from, then close quotation. Then you use this parenthesis, you say my trans, my TRANS full stop, abbreviation, a short form, translation, then semicolon, then page number of this quotation or this line comes from, then close bracket, full stop. So this is how we do that. And this original simply says, பிரபஞ்சத்தின் விதிகள் மனிதனுக்கு புரிவதில்லை, கடவுளே அழைத்தாலும் திரும்ப முடியாத இருளுக்குள் செல்வதற்குள் அவன் தன்னை புரிந்து கொள்ளுதல் நல்லது. This is from the original Tamil epigraph. You can use from your language or from your source. So if you are translating from Malayalam or Telugu or Hindi, you can also mention here. But first you have to mention the English translation, because the reader primarily looks for English. And you give this original because you want to say this is the original. If someone knows the original language, the source language, Tamil or Malayalam or Hindi or Telugu, Bengali, they can benefit from this original. Okay, that's the purpose. And this is how you use parenthesis. My trans, full stop, semicolon, page number, close bracket, full stop. Okay, this is the last one of in today's class. Indirect source. Generally, we should avoid second-hand sources. Whenever we go for research, we have to use first-hand information, first-hand source, not second-hand source. But in some cases, we may not have access to the primary source. In that case, we go for second indirect source, right? Look at this. Of all his novels, what Gabriel Garcia Marquez considers his best is Chronicles of a Death Foretold. That's the name of this novel, full stop. The reason he gives for his choice is, then I use the exact words used by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which itself is in translation, right? I did exactly what I wanted to do with. So these are the words by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. But the problem, I didn't come across it. I didn't read it in the original. I mean, from the direct source. This is not from the direct source. I don't know where Gabriel Garcia Marquez said this, but I read this in a book, another book, where the author quoted this, but I couldn't find the exact source. So in that case, you have to say, see, QTD full stop in, quoted in. So you have to use this phrase, quoted in, QTD dot in. It means quoted in. So Bhattacharya space 200, then close bracket, full stop. So I'm saying, see, I couldn't have access to the direct source, so I used indirect source. So this is the source. If you go to the works cited, Bhattacharya, Ragul. So I used this author's words. I mean, he quoted that in his book, Pandits from Pakistan on Tour with India, 2003-4. So that's the name of the work. So I read these words. I mean, I did exactly what I wanted to with by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is quoted by Bhattacharya in his work. This is actually second-hand source. But since I didn't have access to the primary source, I say quoted in. You should not claim as if it's from the direct source. So if you claim that, you have to mention the primary source. Okay. Generally avoid this, but in rare cases like this, you can use it. When you do that, use this form, qtd.in. Okay. So with this, let's finish today's class. And please subscribe to Professor Academy's news channel, Professor Academy English. Check it out in YouTube and subscribe to it. And this is exclusively for students of English literature. Thank you so much. And Professor Academy offers courses for UGC NET set. And in Tamil Nadu, we offer courses for UGTRB, PGTRB, Polytechnic TRB, and TET. Thank you so much.